So anyway, that's a little bit about Oikos. There's my contact information. There's Dave Rowe's contact information. I hope as you were listening to a little bit about the vision, some of the activities that we're involved with, you could already begin to see why Oikos would have some interest in connecting with what ICA is doing and has been doing in the past. There's, I think, a lot of shared vision and mission that is present. Just to give you a little bit of a personal background on this, I said when I went to Ecumenical Institute that was the first time that I started hearing about the Ecumenical Institute in Chicago, because as I mentioned to some people back here in the Oklahoma conference that I was going to go to the Ecumenical Institute, they were like, "Is that the one in Chicago?" I said, "No, what's the one in Chicago?" "Oh, I'll have to tell you about that at some point." But it was the Ecumenical Institute. And when I got back, and it came back to Oklahoma some, and I told people I had been at the Ecumenical Institute, that came up again. So I was beginning to wonder, what was going on in Chicago? And these people that keep asking me, is it the one in Chicago, are people I really like quite a bit. These are good people that have been in many ways mentors for me. And so that kind of stuck in my mind. But it wasn't until about, 7 years ago now that David McCluskey came into my office and was interested in looking at the possibility of perhaps doing some teaching or leading some workshops here on campus, that I really began to make this much closer connection in my mind with why it is that I was drawn to the Ecumenical Institute in Chicago and now ICA. And then, of course, Pat, Webb, and David, I got to know them quite a bit over the past 7 years. They led a number of really wonderful workshops on spiritual reflection and awareness and meditation, and have worked with our Oikos scholars on some workshops related to peace and meditation, and just had a really fine, wonderful collaboration with them. And it was as David Rowe and I, were forming Oikos that I was having these beginning interactions with David and Pat, and really some of those interactions I think were very helpful as we formed Oikos and began to move forward. So there really is some very close connection here, I think, between what we have done with Oikos and what you've been doing with ICA. And so I guess on Good Friday of this past year, we had a meeting here on campus that was, I think, in many ways brought about by a few meetings that took place before that. We had a meeting on campus about the archives of ICA and of the Ecumenical Institute, and Bill Parker and Jim Wheeler, Rita Newton was at that meeting, Pat was at that meeting, Larry Ward was at that meeting, who else? Ann Clement was at that meeting. Help me out, who else was there? Bill Parker, I think I said, was already at that meeting. So we got together, and given the fact that Oikos and ICA had this, I think, quite a bit of a shared vision and mission, the question was brought up, wouldn't it be interesting to get Oikos scholars and other persons who are involved in the Oikos program interacting with the archives of ICA in such a way that those archives would become living archives, in such a way that those archives could become a